Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kind for being part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. And of course, it's time to welcome everybody into our home. And that is started with the first person today was AVQ, El Señor Michael Rudden. Coming in second into the chat was Yvette Avery Herod, who is from Atlanta, Georgia. Michael Rudden is from Brooklyn, New York. We also have in the queue Bridge MCP from Binghamton, New York. Patrick Magner from Houston, Texas. Lee the Beer Cat from Austin, Texas. And in the house as well is Sociatolo 56. You got to tell me where you're from. How you just say that? Shua Tab Los 56. Go ahead and tell me where you're from so I can call you out. Paul Fleming from Powder Springs, Georgia. We also have, let's see who else in the house. Eric Hayes from Kingwood, Atascocita. Lee Grant from Montgomery County. How is everybody doing today? We are doing fine. We're doing fine. Anyway, folks, we got a lot to talk about. Let's see. First of all, I have a video, a fairly one from Greg Palast, one that I promised you guys a while back. I interviewed him late last week, and what I want to do is play that interview first, and then after this interview, we'll go into the rest of the program, but it's a bit lengthy, so let me go ahead and get that started right now. Go here. All right. Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willies, your host. Greg Palast is known for his investigative reports for The Guardian and bestsellers including The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. Greg Palast's new film about the latest attacks on the right to vote that bent this election. It's called Vigilantes Inc., America's New Vote Suppression Hitmen, narrated by Rosario Dawson and produced by Martin Sheen. Leonardo DiCaprio has released the film for free streaming at gregpalast.com. Again, that is gregpalast.com. My dear Greg Palast, how are you doing today?
Well, I told you so.
Yes, you did.
I told you that through Jim Crow tactics, Trump could take this election. You can use the word steal, whatever you want, but here it is. If you go to gregpalast.com, you'll see an article I wrote called Trump Won. I mean, the vote suppression won, Trump lost. Here are the numbers. What I mean by that is that vote suppression tactics, which I've been studying and working and investigating for Black Voters Matter Fund, the Reverend Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Push, ACLU, and the NAACP, I did an analysis and I determined, and I should mention, by the way, that those who don't know me, you know me as an investigative reporter, you see the hat. But before I was a reporter, I was what's called a forensic economist. That's a detective who's good with numbers. And I work for the U.S. Justice Department and several attorneys general. This is the work I do. And the numbers I'm about to tell you are numbers I've taken into federal court for Black Voters Matter and NAACP, et cetera. So these are really serious numbers. And here's the number. I'm giving you this big lead up to tell you that if it were not for Jim Crow vote suppression tactics, Kamala Harris would have had 3,565,000 more votes, giving her a popular vote victory, and also Wisconsin, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Michigan she would have had the White House with 286 electoral votes. This is a pretty careful calculation. Like I say, I've stood this up in federal court. But on the other hand, Agent Orange is in the White House. So what we have to do is end this Jim Crow voting suppression game. And by the way, vote suppression is a very New York Times-y, highfalutin term for shafting Black people out of their votes and other people of color, including students whose color is then they tend to vote blue.
Now, let me ask you something, Greg. These numbers, because I'm looking at your article at gregpalast.com titled How Trump GOP Fixed 2026. Yes, 2026. And before I get there, I was reading that article, but in that number, I saw that number you spoke about, the 3,565,000 missing votes. And you said that had a lot to do with Black votes, but was that enough to swing the elections? And was that 3 million votes mostly Black voters or otherwise?
It was, I would say, a good half of them were Black voters. Others were other challenge voters, students. Some women who've changed their name and couldn't get ID with their new name change. And Asian American voters have been a new target. I was just at the Osage Indian Reservation. There's no group that suffers more vote suppression than America's natives. And they are, by the way, probably the most democratic voting group in the country, even more than African Americans these days. Asian Americans have also started voting about 75% Democrats, so they've become a target. So basically voters of color and young people. So for example, one of the biggest things that happened in 2024 was the national rollout of the Klan plan, the Trump campaign, and I'm not making this up. That's where you got to see the film Vigilantes Inc. The Trump campaign for 2024 resurrected a plan first used by the Ku Klux Klan in 1946, in which individuals, these are not government people, but self-appointed vigilante vote hunters said, that's not a legal voter. I, Greg Palast, under the laws of Georgia and Florida and Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, other states, I can say, Greg Palast can say, Egberto Willis cannot vote because he doesn't actually live in wherever you live, Washington or whatever. You can't vote. I'm challenging your right to vote. And now how many people have been challenged? Well, in 2024, one single organization backed by Trump called True the Vote, he launched their film at Mar-a-Lago. It's one of his favorite groups. They proudly announced that as of August, 3 months before the election, they had already challenged, these are not government officials, they had challenged 363,000 voters individually. And that included, you'll meet him in my film, that included Major Gamaliel Turner. Now, Major Turner is an African-American career military officer, and he was assigned by the military, by the Pentagon, to Fort Hueneme in California. The chairman of the Georgia Republican Party in Southern Georgia, a guy named Alton Russell, challenged Major Turner's right to vote because they said, well, he's not living in Georgia. Well, guess what, Alton? Here's the deal. If you're a soldier assigned to a base away from home, you're allowed to get an absentee ballot, even if you're a Black soldier. Believe it or not, even Black soldiers are allowed to vote absentee. Well, he never got his ballot, Major Turner. And so he calls up one of the rare people who says, instead of just saying, out of hell with it, calls up his county office and says, where's my absentee ballot? And they said, Mr. Turner, you've been challenged. He says, what does that mean? We can't give you a ballot. It's what does that mean? I've been challenged. He says, someone's challenged you, and all you have to do is come into our office, prove you're an American citizen and that you live here, and we'll give you your ballot. And he said, oh, so you're telling me all I have to do is fly 2,700 miles from California to go to your office to prove that I, a military officer, am an American citizen and that I live where I live. And he says, I've been here before. His father was co-founder of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference with Martin Luther King. And so they took away his vote. And this guy not only took away Major Turner's vote, he took away 4,000 others. So he actually One guy challenged 4,000 voters. Now, all of them but one lost their vote because a lot of them didn't even know they were challenged. Some of them mailed in their ballots and didn't know that it would be thrown away. Major Turner actually, in the end, did go 5,000 miles round trip to protect his vote. He had to go to federal court to get his one vote counted, but they wouldn't count the other soldiers' votes, mostly black soldiers. Again, we're not guessing. We call the people on these lists. And so it is highly racial. And it's a massive, this is brand new. And again, the Ku Klux Klan did this in 1946, which is why, Egberto, my film is called Vigilantes, Inc. Because in 1946, when the Ku Klux Klan launched this idea of massive vigilante challenges, saying, Egberto Willies is not a legal voter. In 46, they had to fill out each form, and they did remove enough black people to elect a Klansman, Eugene Talmadge, as governor. But Talmadge was about to be arrested for this game because it does violate U.S. law. But he drank himself to death, as you'll see in the film, drank himself to death just before the FBI cuffed him. Now, here's the deal. If it was illegal in 46, it's suddenly become legal now. How did that happen? I don't know. Where was our Justice Department?
Yeah.
And now we don't have a Justice Department. We have an Injustice Department. So I'm very, very worried that in 2026, these vigilante challenges will accelerate. Their plan was 2 million by the end of 2024. We don't know how many went through. I'm still trying to get that info. But we do know that they're going to be expanding this attack for 2026.
Now, Greg, I mean, you're doing a whole lot of this. Let me ask you a question. Who are you passing all this information to that you're uncovering?
I'm passing it to the voting rights activists and the legal team. So, for example, Gerald Griggs, who's a top-notch attorney, head of the NAACP Georgia, C.K. Hoffler, who's the attorney for Reverend Jackson and Rainbow Push, Black Voters Matter Fund. Fred Gray actually is one of my attorneys. Fred Gray represented Rosa Parks, and he appeared in court with me on his 90th birthday. So we're getting these top-notch voting rights lawyers and the organizations and getting them involved and active in trying to help people to save their vote. There's a couple ways to save your vote. One is obviously if we can overturn the law in this crazy business in the courts. We haven't seen that yet. Or if we can change the law, we haven't seen that yet, and that ain't going to happen. So the main thing we have to do is protect ourselves. I tell everyone, I don't care if you've been voting at the same place for 50 years. You have got to check your registration 3 months before the election. You must check your registration because you could be purged, you could be challenged. And I got to tell you the saddest thing, which you'll see in my film, in Vigilantes, Inc. By the way, the Ku Klux Klan changed their name, incorporated as Vigilantes Incorporated to cover their tracks. That's why the film is called Vigilantes, Inc. But one of the great tragedies, I was at the polling station in Atlanta when African-American woman in a walker, 92 years old, been voting at the same station for 50 years. They threw her out. They said, you can't vote here anymore because you don't live in Atlanta. Well, I went to her house down the street in Atlanta. And there on the wall is a picture of Martin Luther King having dinner with her at that house 50 years before. So she's been there for 50 years, but she didn't check her registration. Why should she? She's been voting in the same place for 50 years. Well, she lost her vote. This is the problem that we were running into on a massive, massive scale. And for example, and then we have other problems, mail-in ballots. Democrats are 51% more likely to mail in their ballot than Republicans. It's how Democrats vote, especially voters of color, or they use drop boxes in cities. So a couple of things have happened. One, it's very easy. I'm warning people right now, if you don't have to mail in your vote, I do. I'm a journalist. I'm always on the road. If you don't have to mail in your vote, don't go postal. Go vote early. So you don't have to wait in lines. And if something's wrong, you can correct it because at least at minimum, according to MIT and the Brennan Center for Justice at NYU, no less than 1 in 7 mail-in ballots are disqualified. That's about, But it's not just anyone's ballot. The state of Washington did an analysis of whose mail-in ballots get disqualified. Because it's very easy. Like you left out, maybe you registered Egberto with your middle initial, but you didn't sign your mail-in ballot with your middle initial.
Right.
So they play these gotcha games, and 1 in 7 ballots goes, according to the state of Washington, if you are black, you are 400% more likely to have your vote disqualified than if you are white. In addition, if your name is struck off, they'll hand you a provisional ballot and say, fill this out and they'll count your ballot. No, they won't. According to the United States Elections Assistance Commission, 43%, that's almost half of all provisional ballots, are not counted. Now, here's the thing. If you're black, Hispanic, or
American
or
Indian.
Asian American, or Asian American, and if you're Indian, forget it. They hand you the chance that you'll be handed a provisional ballot is 300% more likely than if you're white. And ballots disqualify because there's a mismark or something on that. According to Alan Lichtman, Professor Alan Lichtman is an expert on this who did analysis for the U.S. Civil Rights Commission. If you are black, the chance your ballot will be disqualified for technical reason is 900% higher than if you are white. 900% higher than if you are white. And so that's how you end up with this loss. Now, if you go to my article, you'll see that the various ways that they stop voters from voting, purge them from the voter rolls, disqualify ballots, the numbers add up to about 9 million. But there's a lot of double counting. Not everyone would have voted for Harris, et cetera. That's how we take that down to 3.5 million.
In other words, you corrected for
I have to
amount.
Correct for it. So you start with 9 million votes and voters lost, but there's a lot of non-voters, compression, there's a lot of double counting, et cetera. So we have to account for that. So these are conservative numbers. So it's down to 3.5 million, but 3.5 million swings this election.
And what's interesting is it also makes Alan Lichtman, when he did his prediction as who would win the election, it would have seemed like his metrics were wrong this time around. But if we take a look at what you're saying, his metrics again held. It's just that the suppression actually worked. And what you're telling me is this type of suppression is not only having people not come to vote, but actually having the votes just not counted.
Yes. So that's one of the nasty little secrets of America's democracy. We don't count all the votes that are cast, and we don't let every citizen vote. And it is massive. When I was in Britain, remember, I worked for BBC Television and The Guardian. When we have elections in Britain, they not only say how many votes there are, they'll tell you the non-votes. They'll tell you the disqualified ballots. So in Britain, for example, you'll have, they'll say 5,000 votes in this district for the Labour, 5,000 for Tories, and 3 ballots were disqualified because they were unreadable or spoiled or ripped up or whatever. In America, we don't announce that number because in America, that number runs into millions. Now, who keeps track of this? Greg Palast didn't come up with these numbers, just so you know. These aren't my numbers. These are simply arithmetic calculations from the published data given to me by the United States Elections Assistance Commission. They are the official agency which tracks not only our votes, but our non-votes. It's from them that I found out that over 1 million provisional ballots, about 1.2 million provisional ballots, were disqualified. That's from the EAC, which says 43% of all provisional ballots are disqualified. Right. The purge of 4.77 million voters, purge, that means that you've been removed from the voter roll.
Right.
Without reasonable evidence. In other words, you're not dead, you didn't move. So why are these people being removed? 4.7 million of them, almost 5 million. Now, here's the thing. If they're not voters at a legal address, they shouldn't be voting. But what we did was we had Amazon, the Palast Investigative Fund, hired the experts that work with Amazon and the United States Postal Office, Postal Service, to know where you live. And we verified the voting addresses of these so-called moved voters, and they never moved anywhere.
They were right there.
And 63% of those voters had never moved from their legal voting address. That's according to Amazon and the U.S. Postal Service. So what is it that Brian Kemp or these other GOP purging generals know that we don't know? They know this, because we called 800 of the people who were purged overwhelmingly black voters, overwhelmingly people who had no idea that they lost their right to vote, that they had to re-register. By the way, you can defeat this game by simply checking your registration and re-registering. And that's your first line of personal defense. But we have to fight this, and we have to get the word out. And that's why I work. That's why I work with like Black Voters Matter. I give them the list, and they send out postcards. Southwest Voter Registration Education Project, a Hispanic organization, made, for example, 150,000 calls into Georgia in Spanish and English, warning people who had lost their right to vote that they had to re-register.
Now,
so that's
Greg,
the games played. Yeah.
With all this work that you're doing, why is it? Is any of the parties contacting you to get this data or work with this data? Or are they just asleep at the wheel, just like Schumer was asleep at the wheel today in his belief that we can just wing things?
Well, you know what I say about the parties. With the Republicans, I say let sleeping dogs lie, and then with the Dems, I just say let lying dogs sleep. So it's all the same. You don't count on a political party to save your vote. You save your vote. I'm nonpartisan. I'm a journalist. I don't deal with parties at all. Not that the political parties are necessarily clamoring for me to give them the information. It's the voting rights and civil rights organizations that are taking up and have always been at the forefront of the battle. It's never been the government. And now, of course, you have a government which is absolutely stone cold hostile to voters of color. And in particular, that's one of the things we have to worry about.
So what do we do in 2026? Because the idea, a lot of people are banking on 2026 to start the correction for all the damage that will be done in 2024 and 2025 and beginning in 26.
Well, the election's already been stolen, but you can steal it back. Just here's the problem. I just got off the phone with a foundation. It says, well, why is anyone going to be interested in elections in an off year, 2025? It's not until 2026, because in 2025 is when they do the big purge. I told you that last time there were 4.77 million people who were removed from the voter rolls without evidence. And we know that 63% of those people, about 3 million people, we know for dead sure. We can literally name them. I can give you their names and addresses. 3 million people who were wrongly removed from the voter rolls. Now, they're doing it again here in 2025. All those people, a lot of them same people, will be removed from the rolls. Other people will be removed. I expect 5, 6, 7, 8 million people to fall in this category in this year, 2025. They don't purge voters in election years. They purge them the year before. And that's very effective because you're not looking for anything. You'll get a card in the mail. And let's put it this way. You're supposed to return this card you get in the mail. Then they won't take you off the voter rolls. The return rate is 1.2%. So it's only 99% of people ignore it because it looks like junk mail. How many times do you get a postcard that says official business?
Right.
They all say official. It's just Procter & Gamble selling you soap. It's official mail. But it turns out to be an insurance company, right? So people ignore this stuff. And that's what's dangerous because you will lose your vote. So everyone can check in any state. Every single state these days has an online voter They have online voter registration files. You can check if you are still registered. Do that. But you better act now. Don't count on Biden. Don't count on Harris. Don't count on Schumer. Certainly don't count on J.D. Vance to save your vote. In fact, count on them to make it harder. They have a new SAVE Act, Egberto, that the Republicans are pushing.
That's what I was just about to ask you about before we close. I wanted to hear about that SAVE Act. Okay, the SAVE Act, look out. It's going to require that you prove your citizenship before you register or re-register. We have 31 million people register or re-register, mostly re-register every year. People move and they re-register. 31 million people a year. All 31 million under this act will have to prove that they are citizens. Now you'd say, well, of course, only citizens should vote.
But we don't have non-citizens voting. Go arrest them if you find them. But under this ridiculous thing, we're literally going to have millions of people who won't be able to vote. First of all, who has the two major proofs of citizenship are a passport and birth certificate. It's got to be an original birth certificate. By the way, do you know where your original birth certificate is? So the original birth certificate, no copies. Do you know where that is? The other is a passport. Now, as you know, the color of passport holders is white and green.
Yes.
Because who has a passport except for the one percenters who go skiing in Switzerland for their vacations? They have passports. But if your idea of vacation is maybe you can scrape some nickels together to take your kids to Six Flags, you don't have a passport for that. And you can't prove you're a citizen. And we did this once before. One state, Kansas, when Chris Kobach was Secretary of State, instituted a law there that you had to prove citizenship to register to vote. He blocked about 18,000 voters from voting, and he admitted to a federal court that of the 18,000 people who could not prove their citizenship in time and lost their vote, that not one was an illegal alien voter. Not a single one. But it didn't.
I wonder why. Undocumented workers don't want to be found. Why would they go into a booth and vote?
I'm here illegally. I'm now gonna. Here's my address. I'm walking into.
It makes no sense. But anyway, Greg, give me a closer. What should we do?
Okay. Get ready. Number one, check your registration online. Number two, scream bloody murder and stay connected. Take the information from gregpalast.com and you spread it around. Get it to all your lists, your massage circles, whatever. Warn people. And third, I'm asking you to grab some popcorn and watch a very entertaining movie called Vigilantes Inc., narrated by the wonderful Rosario Dawson. Vigilantes Inc., America's new vote suppression hitmen. You can get the link for free streaming at gregpalast.com. GREGPALAST. You see it on the screen there. You can figure that one out. Those are the three things I'm asking you to do. That is, get informed, raise hell, protect yourself and your loved ones.
We are going to have the links to Greg's website. We're going to have the link to his video, everything in the correspondent blog here. Greg Palast, investigative reporter, and much more than that, he is the director, producer of Vigilantes Inc., America's new vote suppression hitman, who was, again, narrated by Rosario Dawson and produced by Martin Sheen, Leonardo DiCaprio, among some of our other well-known actors. Thank you so kindly, Greg, for having been once again on Politics Done Right.
Thank you, Egberto.
All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed that. We had, getting Greg, he's always on the road, and getting him in one location is always sort of difficult, but we did it. Anyway, folks, we have to give a salute to our Substack people that announce Substack listeners or watchers that announce themselves. Jody Ray from Vancouver, Washington is here. Michael G. Plummy from Mankawa, New Jersey. Carolyn Strawn from Livermore, California. We also have, and I'm scrolling. It's hard to look at it here. I'm only announcing the Substacks that actually wrote a message. Michael G. Plumley says, I'm in medical rehab. Voting by mail is much easier for me than voting in person. Will Trump outlaw mail to voting in the midterms 26? Who knows what they're going to do? We also have Faye Mallet from, I didn't see where she's from, coming down, scrolling down. Okay. Those folks that just came in without putting their names, without typing anything, I didn't call those out. Welcome aboard, Bruce Pollard from Kingwood, Texas. My brother Bruce Pollard from Kingwood, Texas. Maywood from Long Beach, California is here as well with us. I saw some more come in on the chat as well, and I don't like to leave anybody stranded or not stranded, but not recognized. I want to address something Lee Grant says. Lee Grant pointed out that, hey, yeah, a lot of undocumented folks vote. Who told you that? Who told you that? How can you prove that? That undocumented workers go, the right wing just tells you that, my brother, and you accept it? I want you to just think logically and think critically. If you are undocumented, why do you want to go to a voting booth? You don't. Same thing goes with now for people with green cards. There are certain local elections in city municipal elections that actually tell these green card holders, I used to be a green card holder, that you can vote because again, it's the local law, right? But as far as just think about what somebody is going to think about if they're going to put themselves at risk to go in a voting booth when they're here in an undocumented fashion. It just doesn't make any sense. I get very concerned at how gullible and how easy it is to convince many of my brothers and sisters on the right of senseless, and I have to put it this way, on senseless stupidity. It begs, we ask everybody to critical, you don't have to agree with things, but at least critically think. Don't just spout out what these right wing folks that really care nothing about you have to say. Okay? That's not true, Eric. Green card holders in municipal elections in counties that allow it can vote. In cities that allow it can vote. Look, again, this is not up for debate. Sometimes I get tired of folks that simply go ahead and pull out bunk, and what you're showing there as well from ABC News. I suggest you read the fine print. Okay. All right, let's continue here. I have another video for you. This one is the one that I promised you yesterday. So I want to go ahead and do it. It's a conversation that I had with somebody that was calling in to debate small government, big government, that sort of a thing. Okay, I want you to listen to this, and then we will take it on the other side. Here we go. Brother Jim, come on in.
Hello, am I on?
Yes, you are on, sir.
Good morning, Egberto. How are you doing, man?
I am doing fine, my brother. Talk to me.
Okay, so a couple of weeks ago, you were talking about some dude talking about, your typical rant about, big corporations and things like that. And you said something pretty interesting. And I believe what you said was, I want a big government to watch over this country so that the big corporations don't put the boots to our neck.
Yes, you're right. I did say that.
Yeah. And yesterday you were talking, or no, last Friday you were talking to Brian, and you were talking about something similar. And you told Brian that you'd rather be controlled by have a big government than a big corporation.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I did say that.
So, all right. And my opinion, I'm not sure if a big government is really something I really think you or I should really want. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say that is because of a question I want to ask you, Mr. Egberto.
Sure.
And that question is, what if this government gets big enough where they put the boots to our neck? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. And, so, by the way, thank you for bringing that up, because I think this is something that needs explanation as well. I'm going to give you the overall flying on top premise. The flying on top premise is a corporation has no relationship with the people in its financial structure. Okay. In other words, the corporation is an autocratic institution. There's no doubt about that. No questions asked, anything. You have a president, you have a board of directors, a president, and under that, there's a hierarchical model, and you don't vote on who those people are. Those people create a company and then they do whatever the hell they want to do. People will say, well, they're controlled by what people purchase. But again, with the power that they have over we, the people, the government, they can actually get regulations and all these other things instituted so that they have inherent control of us all. With government, we have a constitution that governs the behavior of said government. In other words, if you believe in what the founding fathers wrote, I believe in some of what the founding fathers wrote. They made a hell of a lot of mistakes, and we're living through those right now. But, and that's not to put that every constitution doesn't have its problems. They didn't know what America would look like today. All right. So that said, whatever it is currently constitutionally, the government is we, the people. So when there are things that we don't like occur, we have the opportunity to vote them out. So government can't get so big that it puts the boot on your neck and we sit back and say, oh, government, the boot's on our neck. If a corporation puts its boot on your neck through its prowess by the control of government, that can occur. When you have a government that a corporation cannot control, it reverts right back to the official letter of the Constitution of the United States, which says we are in the Declaration of Independence that says we, the people of the United States, and we are governed by a constitution that determines the separation of states, determine people's rights. We have within our constitution as well is something called the Bill of Rights that actually assigns inalienable rights to the individual and not the collective. So what I'm saying, the reason I said that wasn't by accident, nor do I run away from a statement. Having large corporations and small government is an autocratic system. Having a government by the people, for the people, that is large enough so that no corporation can control is the only viable way to have true democracy. You can answer that, Jim.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, but I think you're forgetting.
Hold one second. Tell me what did I say that you think is incorrect? That is a place to start.
Well, I think. Okay, give me a minute here. A government controlled by a big government cannot be controlled. Okay, what I'm trying to say is that what you're forgetting is that corporations and government are both run by people, and people can have their own agendas and their own beliefs. And when you said that corporations...
You're correct. But again, you missed the point. You're correct, but you missed the point, sir. I had to interrupt you because of time, but let me just say, you're correct. They're both controlled by people. You're correct. But guess what? In the corporation side, the people don't get to elect those people. On the government side, the people do get to elect those people. Don't you agree?
And if the government gets big enough to get rid of the election and take power for themselves,
there's a constitution, sir. There's no the government again. Brother, that is the reason why I am glad you are a listener, because we can take some of the lies that you hear for those people who are anti-government and autocratic tell you. The government can only do what we, the people, want the government to do. But if we constitutionally change so that corporations can be the power, the ones that carry the power, at that point, we have lost it. The government, we have to assert who the government is. The government is not a separate entity. The government is us all. You select your school board. You select your mayor. You select your, well, not your president, but you select your board of electors. You select your governor. All of that is done by we, the people. You don't do that for Exxon. You have no idea who the president of Exxon is. You have no idea what the president of Exxon is doing to the environment unless you have regulations that tell Exxon it has to report what it's doing to the environment. Isn't that true? Jim?
Yeah. I'm here. Okay. So I can't control corporations and things like that. Fair enough. I can't decide that. But what you want is not really viable. Well, what about What am I doing?
That's all right. Go ahead, Jimmy. It's okay. Let me just, wait. Let me just tell you, Jim. Look, let me tell you. Our media and our systems corrupt your feeling of government. I'm hoping that I have convinced you about government. Look, we don't need to be. All of us should have the ability to say, I see why you thought that way. If you don't have an answer right now, you can reevaluate and call sometime if you find something that can go against my argument.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll reevaluate some things, okay?
I appreciate that. But I mean, that is what we are here for, to have these kinds of discussions. Thank you, brother. Have a great day.
Oh, hang on.
All right. As you can see, the problem is that you have with a lot of folks, specifically the MAGA folks, is that when you just repeat talking points and you don't do critical thinking, then you don't go step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And that is what happens. If you listen to our MAGA brothers and sisters in the chat, that's what you find. They say something, but there's not a sequence of events that leads you to how they got there. And what happens if they happen to do that? What then occurs is that they don't get where they thought they were going to get. They get to where you are. And then at that point, when they're realizing that they are getting to where you are, they back off and change the subject. It's just like this brother here. This happened on today is Thursday. This happened on Tuesday. And I told him, go think about it, etc., because you could see he was having problems to refute the statements that I was making. So I said, think about it and call back. I want the conversation because I'm not like the right wing that tells you how to think, and by me telling you, you don't get a chance to critically think and refute me. So I wanted him to call back. So he called today. And when he called and I saw his name and I heard his voice, I said, you're calling about I thought he had gone and done something to at least give a plausible answer to what we spoke about. That's not what he wanted. He wanted to change the subject. So we spoke about something different when he called in today. And I can't recall off the top of my head what he spoke about. But that's the point that I'm trying to make, right? If we can foment, or if we can create a modal where people are willing not to just take a statement like most of our MAGA here in the chat, don't just take a statement. Take it and see how you got there. When somebody talks about small government, it's not a wrong or right. Ask them, what does that imply or get you? And I gave the breakdown as far as which is more democratic, a government, a company, or a government, which is better for the person, a government or a person's, which is more. You go through the process, and once you go through the process, you'll find out that the reason people ultimately are progressives, even if they don't call themselves progressives, is because of logical thinking. You know, it is like those people who are all taken up with they're all taken up with the school board, getting rid of the school board. Okay. Then Trump says he's not going to get rid of all these other programs that the school board does, right? I mean, the Board of Education. And then it turns out that all the things that he says that people want, that he doesn't want to get rid of, well, that's what the Department of Education does. So even if Congress were to go ahead and get rid of the Department of Education, all it means is all those programs that it runs would be run out of other departments, which in a long run will be less efficient. Why? If you put a lot of educational stuff in commerce, that's not their forte, right? The reason you segment things into departments is that department can have focus. That department can focus on all that has to do with education, not commerce and all that kind of crap. I shouldn't call commerce crap. It's not crap. But you get the point. Anyway, folks, you can give me a call now. We still have about 10 minutes to take calls. 281-823-7747. That's it with my two videos. 281-823-7747. Let's see. So to my right wing brothers, stop believing all the crap that you hear. And Lee the Bearcat, it's not about interrupting. He had nothing else to say. He was stumbling with his words. I was helping him out because I understood where he was at that point in time. There, and I'm not, I'm just saying, at that point in time, what argument could he have made? Right? We the people is government. The thing that was the classic thing that the Powell memo led the Heritage Foundation, the Cato Institute, and all these other organizations to do was as follows. We have in order to destroy any kind of social aspect, it was necessary to separate government from the people. That was essential, to separate government from the people. Ray Brackens, how you doing, my brother?
Can you hear me, Egberto? I was listening to that caller that you had took documentation of, and it just goes to the point of what it means to be. Are you familiar with the term it means when a person has been incarcerated for a period of time and then they get out into the free world and then they don't know how to navigate the free world? They call that being institutionalized. You're familiar with that, correct?
Oh yes, oh yeah, absolutely.
So basically what I'm hearing from that young brother is he's been institutionalized by the corporate oligarchy to believe that they will always have his better interest in mind than, say, the government entity. And it's quite interesting when he talks about his fear is a big government that is out of control, yet I bet he has no issue with what's going on with Trump and Elon Musk and Project 2025, when in fact that is his exact fear coming into fruition in reality. But the people who are behind it are the exact people who he would consider the best option to run the government. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna end on this basically and say, like, I don't understand how these people say, I'm scared of a big government, but yet you follow and you cheer for leaders who want a big oppressive government. For instance, and here in Texas, Dan Patrick is trying to criminalize all THC products again, which every other state is going in the opposite direction, which is legalization and full regulation of the product. But no, he wants to make Texas more oppressive. That's what I call a big government, and I hate it. But they claim that's what they want. They want big government for people that.
Hold on 1 second. Let me get Melissa in. All right, Melissa, hold on. Let Ray finish his conversation. Continue, Ray.
Yeah. So back to what the guy said. I think Scott said they want a government where the bottom 99% have to abide by it, but they're not protected by it, and the top 1% are protected by it, but they don't have to abide by it. And I love, since I heard that, it's like tattooed on my brain, because that young brother is basically perpetuating the myth of what we don't believe, and that's that a government, when it's functioning correctly, will do the will of the people, because a government is employed by the people, and a corporation employs the people and is a dictatorship and tells you what they want you to do. I'm sorry, I went on a rant there, but
no.
He definitely.
Hold on a second. That's a good rant. But let me just say before we go to Melissa Bowie, I want to tell you that is what indoctrination looks. Can you hear me? That is what indoctrination looks like. That is what indoctrination looks like. And the idea that you can actually think that a corporation that has, again, the Milton Friedman explained what corporations are, etc. Okay, and they have no loyalty to anything but their shareholders and executives. That's by design. That is by design. So it's important for us to understand that. But again,
Yeah.
there are two things. There are two things to talk about. Before I continue this, I'm going to bring Melissa into the conversation for her to make her point. Melissa, how are you doing, our beautiful Melissa?
Gran, how are you, love? What's up, Houston?
I am doing fine.
I
Talk to
was
me, my sister.
yeah, so I was just earlier today I was listening to the hearing that about Doge and the fact that Elon didn't show up to the hearing, but it was about, accountability and to show, I mean, well, at least he could have came and bought the facts and bought the receipts of how we, of this fraud and wasteless spending. But none of the whole crew didn't even show up. So what is that? If we want accountability and we want to get excessive government out of the way, so why not show up and present those receipts? I don't see how we as a people, or well, not we, but I don't see how MAGA is portraying that he's doing a good job if he can't even show the receipts. You can say what you're finding, but if you don't prove or show the receipts, then what is it? It was just
I have an
baffling to
answer
me.
for you. I have an answer for you. I have an answer for you. And you know what? And the answer is that the problem is this, right? All those agencies have, I forgot what you call them. It's the person who checks what they're doing to make sure that they're not stealing, to make sure there's not fraud, etc. And here is the problem that Musk and those guys ran into. They believed the lie they were telling America. They were telling America that there's a lot of fraud in government, right? And there's a lot of inefficiencies in government. And while there is a lot of fraud in government, and there is a lot inspector generals, yeah, each of them have inspector generals. While there is a lot of fraud in government and a lot of inefficiencies, the problem is where they went looking isn't where those inefficiencies and fraud are. And the reason why those inefficiencies and frauds aren't there, Melissa, is because the inspector generals are there to look for it. So what they found was very little amount of findings. But you know where the fraud and abuse is? In the defense sector. And that's the sector that they haven't been able to touch, because every audit that the Defense Department has gone through, listen to me well, Melissa, have failed. So they can't go into the Defense Department and see where the real fraud is. Bombs that cost $10,000 that we pay $100,000 for. Things like that is found in the Defense Department. You don't find it in the social programs. You don't find it in all these other areas. So that is the big catch. They went ahead and they believed
Yeah,
their own lies. Continue, my sister.
right. My last tidbit is how we get how we say we don't want we want non-immigration. We don't want immigrants, but yet you have an immigrant running the country, not Trump, but his
Yeah,
his
I
his
know.
corporate
You're talking about
parent.
Elon,
Elon Musk.
hello.
And let me tell you about Elon, which is quite interesting. There was a time Elon Musk, according to his brother, was here undocumented. According to his own brother on a podcast, they said their family was undocumented for some time. And these are the people now
Yeah, his
that
brother
they
snitched.
are deporting. Okay. So the hypocrisy, the difference here, though, Melissa, is that he is a white South African Afrikaner immigrant. And remember what Donald Trump stands for. Remember what MAGA in the aggregate leadership stands for. And that's your answer. Anything else, sister?
Perfect, love. Thanks, Sue. Keep doing your work.
Thank you so kindly for calling in. I haven't heard from you in a while. We'll talk later, okay? All right. Okay, Ray. Anyway, anything else, Ray? Give me a quick closer.
Yeah, I mean, basically everything said here is correct. I mean, Melissa hit the nail on the head. He is an illegal immigrant, but because he's from South Africa and he believes in apartheid, it's okay. And to that other brother's point, you know, I mean, he basically bought into that whole Ronald Reagan BS that big government is not the solution to your problem. Big government is the problem. And you know what? When you have people like Donald Trump and Elon Musk running it, yes, that is absolutely true. It's called two truths and a lie. And that's what they plan right now with America.
Absolutely. So I got one more call to take before we shut this baby down. Hold on 1 second. Let's see. All right. Okay, last call. Who am I speaking with?
You are speaking with caller Harry. I just made it. Thank God. I heard what Greg Palast said, and he's right on the money with all that. We've got to do that. I got to look at that vigilante thing, and we have to check our votes because these people want to cheat you out, especially if you're a person that tends to vote Democrat or the other side. They want to cheat you out of your vote. They want to do voter suppression. They want to throw these your mail-in ballots out. And the other thing I was looking up, you were talking. Well, I was talking to you this morning. You were talking about that other woman that got fired on MSNBC, Katie Fang.
Yeah, we're out of time.
Katie Fang, when she got fired, and they're going to keep.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're out of time, so we're gonna have to talk tomorrow morning.
Go ahead.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, I'll call you in the morning about that.
Baby up. Have a great day, folks. All right. Thank you guys for calling in. We are at the end of the program. I want to thank everybody for being here. Please support the show. Best way to support the show is to become either go to our Patreon at politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. If you are on our Substack app, please consider clicking and becoming a paid subscriber of our Egberto Off the Record newsletter. That subsidizes our entire operation. You can get there by going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter as well. Politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. All right, folks, I got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end. First of all, love you all. And I mean that from the depths of my heart. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how we end this baby. I am what? Out. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.